Hello everyone. I wanted to share a game that I played yesterday. It was for the Swedish Southern League, Club League. I was playing for the Lund team. We played against Engelholm and we won the match. I wanted to show you the game that I played. I had the black pieces. My opponent started with d4, knight f6, knight f3, and d5. I gotta say that I haven't prepared a lot against the opening that we played. Um, I've played it, of course, but I decided to go for a line that is kind of new for me. E3, very normal. Here I played C5. This is the line that I'm testing. I'm getting familiar with it now. It's nothing too special. The things that I've tried are d takes c5, uh, knight c6, and maybe ideas of controlling the center with e5. Um, just this the same idea of controlling the center as in most openings. My opponent played c4 here, and right at this moment, I had to start thinking. My memory was out. My preparation was out the window. I had nothing. So normal move e6. I think d takes c4 is also normal, but I didn't want to play that because then bishop takes c4 is just easier for white. So I played knight c6, which I think is fine. I think there's nothing wrong with this move. My opponent played c takes d5. I took with the knight. Capturing with the queen is also possible, but there is a tempo. For example, we might have this situation and then I have to move my queen again. So this is a free tempo for white. I didn't want to allow that. So I just took with the knight. And then he played knight c3. And here I thought, and I wanted him to get an isolated pawn. I like to play against isolated pawns. I feel they make my life easier. At least there is one weakness. And it's a very known principle that you need two weaknesses to win a game. So I continued with c takes d4. Here, if well, in the game, my opponent played knight takes d4, and that allowed me to play knight takes c3, and now that's an isolated pawn. But instead, if they would have captured with the e pawn, it's the same situation. This is an isolated pawn. And then there are ideas of playing something like bishop g5 or just g6, bring the bishop to this long diagonal. So it was already not bad. This is by no means bad for white. It's way too early to say that. But this line just gives me something to play against. And here, my opponent has the same threat of just capturing on c6, and that would affect my pawn structure. We would end up with the same isolated pawn. And oh, sorry, that's not what we played. And I didn't want that. So I played a rather passive move. I played bishop d7. Uh, it was interesting for me to play e5. Again, the same idea, the same problem. To me, this would be a problem. Then pretty much have to take, and takes, and we could maybe argue that this is a slight advantage, but at the same time, the queens are off. This seems like a rather safe square, and the rooks will be connected, development will be fine. So I didn't want that. The idea of e5 was already in my head, but there was not the right time to play it. So I played bishop d7, and he played bishop e2, which is fine. Uh, I see nothing wrong with this move. Um, Now I could think of playing e5 myself, and the reason why I didn't want to play e5, or I decided not to play e5, was because of knight b5. And then I'm not sure how to stop this. During the game, I looked at things like queen f6 and queen b6, and they are just weird and not normal for me. I wouldn't be happy playing them. At the same time, after check and bishop takes, sorry, after check, bishop takes, and queen takes, maybe it's fine to play queen e7 and queen takes and king takes, and it's sort of the same argument, except we have an imbalance. We exchanged a white knight for a black bishop, so it's white who has the bishop pair in an open position with many lines opening up. So that would benefit white for sure. So I didn't want to get into this. This is a variation. Um, Later, I checked with the computer, and the computer says, just play bishop e6, and everything is fine. Just play that. And to me, that's still not great. I mean, I I think I would probably, now that I see bishop e6, I think I might consider playing this because a kick in the knight is easy, and then playing king c7 covers the the, the bigger weakness in black's camp, b7. Uh, White will be able to attack it rather soon. So that seems to cover everything. I didn't want to move there, sorry. But during the game, I didn't see the idea of bishop e6, so that's why I didn't go for it. Instead, I went for g6, with the very clear idea of just bringing the bishop on this long diagonal. Part of why I played that is because this pawn is here. At the moment, the knight is located in that diagonal, but that also would put some pressure on the knight. The knight would maybe not have such an easy time moving and interacting. It is a great knight, but with my bishop here, there is some pressure on the knight. And also, I imagined that far in the future, this bishop could influence a promotion square, or the path to a promotion square. This is not a pawn majority because white also has two pawns, but I could imagine some pressure along these squares, especially, well, not the light squares, but these three squares that are highlighted. I could see a big influence from the bishop being here. So my opponent played bishop d2, which to me is a weak move. This is when my opponent played this, I was happy. I actually I felt relieved. One of the things that I considered uh, was ideas around here, and maybe, yeah, still, just develop and normal things, nothing really to worry about. But I could see maybe some pressure, some accuracy needed in my play if I went for something like this, um, because there could come some pressure on the same lines and the same ideas, sort of Fianchero in the bishop and these things, and this pawn would, I mean, it's already under some pressure. Um, I wasn't really a fan of going for something like this and then uh, having to worry about so many things at the same time, namely this and these two weaknesses. Objectively, this is probably fine, but I just wanted to not worry about that. So when my opponent played bishop d2, that was good news for me. Still, this is a weak move because with this move, my opponent is saying, all I want this bishop to do in its life is protect this pawn. That's all I want for this bishop. If, on the other hand, he would have played maybe even something like this, at least this bishop is saying, okay, I will maybe eventually move this pawn, and then this bishop will have an influence on the same diagonal. But from d2, what is it really going for? At most, it's aiming to this side, and there's nothing there. So I didn't really like this move for white. Just continued bishop g7. My opponent castled. Again, I was happy to see that because I felt that they could put some more pressure around here. Maybe, I don't know, go for some overprotection, some influence. I don't know, something else that could make me uncomfortable. But they didn't go for that. I just happily castled. And my opponent played bishop f3. And of course, it's the same theme, the same idea of trying to exchange and leave me with sort of a weakness, a weaker pawn structure. I didn't want to move there, sorry. I don't know why it drags the piece. Anyways, so here I had two moves. I looked at queen c7 and I looked at rook c8. I think they're both good moves. The only reason why I played rook c8 was because I didn't want to allow this small tempo. And then having to move my queen again, maybe decide to go for this. It felt unnecessary. Then something like rook c1, and this point is now well guarded. I wouldn't say that white is better, not at all, but might have an idea of rook e8 and push. I don't know, but out of principle, I didn't want this tempo for white. So I figured, well, my rook isn't going to be happy with this bishop in that diagonal anyways. So I just went for rook c8 instead. Rook c8, now this bishop is not x-raying the rook. Rook b1, very obvious that that white is going to attack the weakness. So how to get rid of the weakness? I could play again queen c7, and if something like this happens, I would be able to play queen b8 maybe, but the queen on b8 is not a happy queen. So the easier way is just to play b6, and that's what I did. b6, now this pawn is guarding this one. Now I was looking at, well, it doesn't work right away, but something like pushing the pawn. Just maybe prepare for that a little bit. Maybe this other pawn instead, and try to create another weakness. Something along the lines of pushing the pawns and weakening this small structure. That's what I thought my opponent would do. Instead, he played this move. Bishop takes c6. And that move made me happy. That move made me really happy. Because now, I am the one who has the bishop pair in a fully open position. I have a very nice rook, eyeing the weakness in white's camp. And I dare to say that I am already better in this position. I think if my opponent had gone for this, this is still better for black, because now there are two pieces converging into the weakness. And now white has to go into full defensive mode. Maybe some counterplay along these lines, but now there are three pieces here, and this one is guarded. So it's definitely not easy for white to play this. It can be a long grind, maybe. Maybe rook c1, rook f8, and maybe it will take a while, but in any case, it's black who has the initiative. It's black who has the better position, and there are still plenty of pieces on the board. So I would dare to say that not going to say that this is completely winning for black, but this is preferable. Uh, so instead, my opponent played Rook E1, and Rook E1 made me think because now that the knight isn't on C6, there is only one piece attacking the sorry, two pieces attacking the knight. So that wasn't it. Got confused for a moment. Um, but in any case, I didn't want my opponent to start pushing the pawn. um, Again, I thought maybe he could uh, reroute the the bishop. Maybe I don't know, come up with some weird activity around here. I don't know. I didn't want him to free his position by playing e4. So of course I looked at bishop e4. This is the most natural move. And then I thought something like this, and what did I gain with that? What's yeah, there is a disconnect between the two rooks, so that's maybe a slight improvement. At the same time, there might be ideas around sacrificing pieces, and I don't know. It didn't seem necessary. It didn't seem like it accomplished anything. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that, but that was the feeling. Um, F3 maybe, and then I even looked at Bishop D3. Again, I don't know what it accomplishes. So I did see this position in my head when I was playing the game, and I didn't see how this would be uh, like so much better. So instead, after my opponent played Rook E1, I went for something a bit riskier. I went for F5. And when I played F5, I had to calculate 96, Queen D5, threatening checkmate on G2. So the knight has to go back. And I thought that this position with the knight on F4 would be good for me. Because then I can easily kick him back. The same idea applies if white decides to exchange. I would be happy to exchange. And this is still a weak pawn, so I felt this was still easier for black to play. Instead, my opponent actually went for the line that I calculated. Um, he played 96. I went for the only move, Queen D5, and then Knight F4. This is a moment where I failed. Uh, I played Queen D6, which is not a bad move, but it misses a chance. It misses a good chance, or several. When we did the analysis after the game, it seemed like I could play something like this. And if Rook B4, just maybe go back. I think this is what we talked. Just go back. And this should be fine. The computer, however, suggested Queen takes A2. I looked at Queen A2, of course. During the game, I saw it. But I didn't like the activity of the Rook coming here to A7. I thought, right now my opponent has a very cramped position. Everything is disconnected. All of his pieces are not working together. And there is really not a lot of activity for him. During the game, I thought if I capture on A2, then this rook suddenly has a purpose in life. And this is the move that I missed. I would probably still be winning something here. The computer doesn't go to rook k7 actually. Apparently there will be too much pressure So this to me is speculative. This is not clear, and I couldn't see in my head that this was actually better. Um, so that's why I didn't play this. I played a more humble move, and this is the moment where my opponent maybe, or around this, maybe it's when my opponent had a better chance of fighting back. My opponent played Queen B3, which I expected, and I played rather quickly King H8, which again I don't think is a bad move, but the computer didn't like it. Apparently, this sort of equalizes the game. Um, the computer thinks that Rook F7 is better. I'm still not too sold on that. I guess the idea is to eventually play something like this, but I can't very easily bring the. Oh, okay, yeah. Now maybe this is the idea: playing E5, playing Bishop D5, and then playing Rook D7 or Rook C7, and a lot of pressure around here. Yeah, maybe that was the intention behind Rook F7. So in any case, I played King H8, which I think is maybe my first or second truly weak move. Um, Still, I prefer black. I'm happy as black here. My opponent played another weird move. Um, it's hard for me to suggest something. I thought maybe C4 at this point. Oh no, sorry, the bishop is hanging. But there was a point where I thought white should play C4 and just, you know, transfer the weakness, push it a little forward, but maybe try to cause some damage. Uh, yeah, maybe something like this instead. I don't know. In any case, my opponent played Rook B2. So I saw a chance of kicking the knight back and just gaining a lot of activity and a lot of space. And I started to try to take advantage of the situation by pushing the knight back, by using the open file, and maybe keeping the or increasing the pressure on the semi-open file and the weakness. So if we look at this position, this is a defensive bishop. This is an aggressive bishop. This knight looks active, but it doesn't serve a purpose. There is never an idea of forking. For example, if this were to happen, we just have bishop d5. And the queen is under attack, and we can just take the knight. So this is never an idea. This fork can never happen. So I was very happy here as black. I brought the other rook, not because I want to take with the queen, not at all, but there are squares that I can infiltrate. I can get closer to white's camp. I can maybe in some lines, I don't know, move my queen away and still have support from the rook for the bishop, where the bishop could jump to a much better square. There were many ideas, and this rook f to d8 helps in many of them. My opponent played another interesting weak move. I don't like this because it's true that there is pressure here, but couldn't he just play something? Oh no, the rook is under fire. Yeah, that's another reason why rook b2 doesn't really work. The rook is now again under fire. Um, Anyways, he played rook c1, and this was a chance. I just played e5. So squares for the knight h3. Not easy to play that because the only active square after that is here, is g5, and then maybe f3, but that's 3 tempi, so it's not easy to play that. Or knight e2, but from e2 the knight also doesn't have a lot of squares. I mean, this one is taken, this one is taken. Here, but knight g3, what does the knight serve on g3? This is a pawn chain, so there's nothing else to do there. So suddenly the knight doesn't have a purpose in life. Knight e2. Here, I would say that I am already winning. I would say that this position is completely winning for black. There are many ideas. The queen is also a little bit sensitive. Uh, During the game when I played this move, queen d6, I was debating myself between queen d6 and queen d7. Objectively, I should have played queen d7. Considering that I already had decided not to go for queen e2 and things like that, this would have been stronger in the long run. And I failed to assess this position to take the chance. I did see queen d7, and I don't know why I decided for queen d6. I think I was down on time and some pressure around that. But this would have been stronger because at this point, where we have this move, if the queen were on d7, we would actually have bishop a4 with the idea that queen a3 is met by bishop f8, attacking the queen. So the only move then would be rook b4. And by playing rook b4, this bishop is hanging. So we could just take the bishop. So that would have been a strong move if I had played this before. So I didn't have that. I could actually play maybe queen if, yeah, maybe something, I don't know. I think maybe it's too late now. But in the game, I just played queen d3. Queen d3, very simple idea. I'm attacking the knight, and they have to do something about it. So I was expecting rook e1. This is what I was expecting. And here I thought, oh, I can just continue improving my position. I looked at something like this, for example, with the same idea. I did see queen a6 during the game. I expected rook e1, but instead my opponent played bishop e1. And this is a pretty big blunder because now I have this move, or something like this. What's the difference between this? Well, now there is f3, and the thing is that the bishop is protecting e3. So I just have to go back, and it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. I wouldn't want to exchange queens because I like the pressure that I have. So I would maybe go for something like this. But when my opponent plays bishop e1, this pawn is no longer protected. So I can actually play e3, and this is what I did. Played queen e3. And here my opponent resigned. The only move is this. And then I have an extra pawn. And yes, it's not that much materialistically speaking. But the position is so bad, white's position is so bad, that it's hard to come up with good moves. For example, I was ready to play this, and the threats are all related to, I don't know, here and pushing the e-pawn, and this is overwhelming. The knight is also under fire. Opening this diagonal is great for the bishop. There's very little that white can do to improve their position, and black has just very easy and natural moves to play. So my opponent resigned, And aside from bishop e1, I don't think they made a serious blunder, just a series, just sporadic weak moves. That's my impression of the game. And I'm happy that I was able to see those weak moves and be able to take advantage of them. One point that I missed, and I will remember, is this, because speaking from a psychological point of view, I didn't take on a2 just because of this activity. During the game, I didn't really see beyond this. I didn't even calculate. Okay, where will I move my queen? What options do I have? It just seems unnecessary. So this was my lazy moment in the game. One where, according to the computer, would have been a lot better for me. Um, but yeah, this is the game. I hope you liked it. I hope you took something out of it. Feel free to comment. Feel free to criticize me. Feel free to offer variations and ideas that I missed. That's how we all improve. Thanks a lot, and see you soon. Bye.